I made over $120,000 as a freelancer, and I can tell you right now that cold outreach is dead. And before you click off thinking that this is just another content creator hate sales take, let me be very clear. I didn't come to this conclusion because I never tried cold outreach. I actually came to it because I've tried it seriously for a really long time. And I learned the hard way why it's one of the worst ways to get clients, especially right now in 2026. You see, for years I believed the same advice that everyone else gives beginners. When you're starting out, nobody knows who you are, so you have no choice but to cold DM, cold email, or cold call, all those things. You have to put yourself out there, you have to grind, you have to eat rejection, and it feels uncomfortable, but that's just part of the game. But looking back now, especially with how technology and algorithms work today, that advice is not just outdated, it's actively misleading, because we're no longer in a world where the only way to reach your potential clients is by interrupting them. We're in a world where your work can be delivered directly to the exact people who need it, often at the exact moment that they're looking for it. And honestly, that changes everything. Here's the simplest way to understand why cold outreach sucks so much. Cold outreach is interruption based, while content is intent based. Let me explain. When you send a cold email, you are interrupting a stranger. You have no idea what they're dealing with that day. You don't know their priorities, their mood, or whether they even have the problem that you're trying to solve. Most of the time, they never even asked to hear from you. There is no intent. You're just hoping that your message will land at the right moment in their life. And most of the time, as I'm sure you've noticed, it doesn't. Content works the opposite way. Instead of interrupting people, it makes you discoverable. It allows someone to find you when they already have intent, when they are already looking for answers, solutions, or clarity. That one difference completely flips the power dynamic. With cold outreach, you're chasing attention. With content, attention comes to you. To make it easier to understand, think of it like this. Doing cold outreach is like being a door-to-door salesman. You walk around, you're knocking on doors, trying to pitch your product or service to whoever happens to answer. Every single interaction is cold. It starts from zero. You're constantly bracing for rejection, objections, or just silence. Most people don't even want to open the door for someone they don't know. And if they do, they're more often than not instantly on the aggressive. On the other hand, however, creating content is like owning a store inside the busiest mall in your city. Thousands of people walk past your storefront every single day. They are already there to buy something. Your job in this case isn't to try to convince them to please come and buy your shoes, but only to show them why your shoes are better than all the other shoes in the other stores in the mall. Neither of them is inherently easier than the other. They just require completely different skill sets, energy levels, and even personalities. And at some point, I realized something important about myself. I hate feeling like I'm disturbing someone just to get something from them. I hate participating in the same dirty salesman tactics that cold outreach almost forces you into if you want results. I would much rather give someone immense value for free before ever taking a cent from them. Instead of knocking on the door of random people who might be having a terrible day just to sell some shoes, I would much rather offer people free raincoats when it's raining outside and then offer to sell them rain boots on the back of that. Because before I take money from anyone, I want to be confident they will actually get value from what I'm selling. That's why I've sold over 100 digital products with zero refund requests. That's why I've managed a 4.9 star rating on Fiverr across more than 1,500 reviews. Going above and beyond makes me feel a lot better about selling. Cold outreach works in the direct opposite way because it's difficult to provide that much value to each individual person without getting anything in return. But with content, it's so much easier because I can give value to a lot of people at the same time. And in return, I get attention at scale. You see, most people talk about cold outreach in terms of response rates, open rates, and conversion percentages, but almost nobody talks about the real cost, the psychological one. You see, cold outreach, it puts you in this constant loop of rejection and ghosting. Even when you know intellectually that it's just numbers, it still messes with you. You start questioning your skills, your pricing, your positioning. You start feeling beggy, even if you're genuinely good at what you do. There is also the decision fatigue. Who do I message today? How do I personalize this one? Should I follow up again, or will that feel desperate? Did I word that sentence wrong? Should I tweak my pitch? And here's the worst part. Cold outreach scales linearly. That means the more time you spend sending emails or the more money you spend automating those emails, the more clients you get. But the moment you stop, everything stops. No messages will be sent, no leads will come in. So no matter how good you get, you're never going to live that constant state of trying to prove yourself to strangers. This has been made even worse since the arrival of AI. Most people just completely ignore their emails now because with AI, it's gotten so easy to send thousands of emails that most decision makers have gotten flooded with subpar messages from people who aren't even half as good as you. This channel has just 800 subscribers, yet I still get hundreds of emails every single month from people who want to edit my videos. In fact, just yesterday I got an email from someone who wants to script my videos. I shared a script writing GPT. That's how terrible many of these cold emails are, that it just gets so tiring to keep reading and receiving more. Content, on the other hand, scales asymmetrically. One of the biggest reasons people cling to cold outreach is because it feels active. You send an email, refresh your inbox, something happened. Even if it's a rejection, at least it's feedback and there's motion. Content doesn't give you that, especially in the beginning. You post something you worked super hard on and it gets 10 views, maybe even 0 comments. You don't get any DMs, no leads, just silence. But here's the part that nobody tells you. That silence is doing something important. Content forces you to do the hard work up front. It forces you to clarify what you actually do, who it's for, and why anyone should care before you ever even get on a sales call. You don't get to hide behind clever personalization or follow-ups. If your message isn't clear, the market will tell you immediately by ignoring it. And that's painful, but it's also incredibly useful, because once content starts working, everything downstream becomes so much easier. When people reach out after consuming your content, you don't even have to sell them. They already know how you think. They understand your pricing logic. They trust you, often way more than you realize. I've had people reach out to me referencing things I said months ago, ideas I forgot that I even shared. Conversations start at the decision phase and not the skepticism phase. There's no prove yourself. It's just, hey, I think this makes sense. What's the next step? That's the difference between cold and warm outreach. Cold outreach is stranger, skeptical, cautious, maybe trust. Content is stranger, this person gets me, trust before you ever even speak. And once you experience that difference, it's very, very hard to go back. Trust me. You see, with content, you put in a lot of effort up front for very little reward, sometimes no reward at all. But over time, that effort compounds. One video leads to another, one post gets referenced months later, one idea keeps working long after you forgot you even made it. It's like every other investment. It costs a lot of time and money up front, but then once it matures, you start earning dividends and interest with very little maintenance required. Now, I want to be very clear about something, because this is where most videos get dishonest. Cold outreach isn't evil or terrible, and there are situations where it actually makes the most sense. If rent is due and you need cash now, cold outreach is your best bet. It can bridge gaps, it can buy you time. Sometimes you don't have the luxury of playing the long game, which content is, but this pressure can also become a negative. It's when you rely on cold outreach for survival, desperation will leak into everything you do. Your tone, pricing, boundaries. You start saying yes to clients you shouldn't. You're undercharged. You tolerate nonsense, not because you want to, but because you feel like you don't have that many options. Content works best when you're building leverage, when you can say no, when you're thinking in terms of assets, not just individual wins, when you're playing offense instead of constantly reacting. Cold outreach is like hunting, while content is like farming. One gives you short-term wins at a long-term cost. The other asks you for patience upfront, and it pays you back slowly but repeatedly. When you commit to content long enough, you don't just get inbound leads, you build a flywheel. Your content becomes social proof. It makes your name familiar. It makes even your cold outreach warmer if you ever choose to do it again. Because now you're not just a stranger, you're someone with a body of work that people can go and look and become familiar with you. It opens doors to products, consulting, leverage, and optionality you simply don't get when all your energy is spent sending messages. And the most important difference of all is this: cold outreach stops the moment you stop sending messages. Content keeps working when you're tired, when you're busy, when you're bored, when you take a break. Keeps working. Its efforts can't even outlive you. So, if I had to distill everything I learned making over $120,000 as a freelancer, it would be this one idea: clients don't want to be found. They want to find you. The moment I stopped chasing attention and started earning it, everything got so much easier. Sales conversations got calmer, my pricing got cleaner, my boundaries got stronger, and the work itself became so much more enjoyable. Cold outreach taught me how to survive, while content taught me how to build. And heading into 2026, that difference matters more than ever before. If you want to learn how to do content right to transform your business in 2026, you don't have to go viral. Join my completely free school community, link in the description. I'll see you inside.